This is Nick Labassi from United Spinal and Trevor Jennings from Nemeda. Am I saying that correctly?
Nemeda, but
Nemeda?
it's close enough. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll count it. We're good.
Phonics isn't my forte. So they're here to tell us a little bit about the organizations they work for. It's going to be a progressive meeting. About halfway through, we're going to head down to the ambulance bay, and we have a little bit of an interactive portion. So I'll turn it over to you, Nick.
Thank you guys, thanks for having us, thanks Amanda. So, did everyone get cookies? If you didn't, you can take them down with you or come back up when we go on our tour. I am not a special guest by any means. Trevor certainly is, but I am not. I've been here before. I've had the opportunity. Amanda took me on a tour, I guess about 2 years ago when you guys first opened. So having done rehab about 24 years ago, I was totally impressed. I still think the place is unbelievable. I wish there was something like this when I had done my rehab. So I know how important it is, and I thank you guys for everything you do for the spinal cord injury community. So our presentation today, you'll be happy to know that I'm only going to speak for like 5 or 6, maybe 7 minutes. I'm going to kind of go through my presentation quick because I want to introduce Trevor and Nemeda and give you a sense of what they do, and then actually be able to go see some of the equipment that we have for you downstairs. So without further ado, let me start by talking about our partnership. So United Spinal, through our presentation today with Nemeda. Nemeda stands for National Mobility Equipment Dealers Association. So it's a trade organization that Trevor will go further into for accessible vehicles. So obviously it's important for you guys to have that information for your patients. But through the presentation today, we hope to give you a broader understanding of both United Spinal Association and some of the resources that we provide, as well as the benefits of understanding the offerings that Nemeda has and how they play a role in the community of spinal cord injury in regards to people driving accessible vehicles. Who here has heard of United Spinal Association before? Pretty good crowd. Who here is aware that Shirley Ryan AbilityLab is a hospital member of the United Spinal Association? Okay, I'm not going to ask who knows what a hospital membership is because I'm going to get to that. So I put this up. This is our mission statement. I'm not going to read it. You could read it, but it's a lot of words. But essentially our goal is to increase the independence of individuals living with spinal cord injury or disease. And we keep it broad like that because disability touches everything, work, whether it's employment, schooling, giving back to the community, family life, the actual rehab process, driving, all of these different things factor in. So we don't want to be pigeonholed with a really focused mission statement. And as you can see here, everything we do is geared towards increasing the independence of people with disabilities. So a little bit of history about United Spinal Association. We were founded in 1946. We're a consumer-run nonprofit. It was started by 2 World War II veterans that came back from World War II with spinal cord injuries and felt they weren't getting the services that they needed or deserved, rightfully so, and they started advocating. So our organization still, to this day, is huge for advocacy, and we'll touch on some of that. We also helped write large portions and almost the entire article, Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act back in 1990-91. So we have over 70 years of policy experience, and that's not just nationally. We work locally with our chapters. I know Sarah is familiar with the chapter here in Illinois. So we do that as well. I have here 47,000, over 50,000 members. We have 54 chapters throughout the country. We have 185 peer support groups, and we also have 115 hospital members. So these are some of our programs. They're not all of them. There's too many to list, but these are some of the top ones that we do, and I think some of the ones that are relevant for you. So our resource center, I have up here, by the way, brochures, my business cards, and magnets for you all you can take. The magnets are a direct link to our resource center. Our resource center is staffed by professionals. We have a nurse that worked on a spinal cord at Boston University on the spinal cord ward for 19 years, so she's really well-versed in the basic medical conditions that someone with a spinal cord injury may call, or a caregiver or family member may call in about. We also have 3 individuals that have spinal cord injuries at different levels. They're really, really well versed in all of the things throughout the country for resources, whether it's somebody, and we get really diverse calls. We get people that are injured on the work, that are injured at work, maybe 2 or 3 years, and they're looking for post-injury, and they're looking for a workers' comp attorney because someone said, did you pursue that? all the way to complex medical issues where we have a medical advisory board. We don't give that advice over the phone, but the case goes before the medical advisory board. They'll either meet impromptu or on scheduled, regularly scheduled calls and come up with a solution on how to help that individual. Fortunately, you guys are the experts here, but our hospital membership program reaches out to rural communities in Iowa and North Carolina, all the areas that there may not be a model spinal cord center for them to go to. We have a ton of free publications, fair housing, women's health with spinal cord injury, different publications on employment and strategies for being disabled and trying to get a job. And the list goes on and on. You could access them at unitedspinal.org. I urge you to take a brochure and you could peruse through it and check out some of the stuff. New Mobility Magazine, how many of you have seen New Mobility? Probably all of you, right? I know Amanda, when you took me last year, 2 years ago on the tour, you had them in the library downstairs. So that goes out every month. That's the preeminent spinal cord injury magazine. It's an active lifestyle magazine, and it's meant to portray the positive things that we do with spinal cord injury, and that life goes on. Public policy, I mentioned, we do have an office in DC. They're on the Hill all the time. Advocacy Alliance is our grassroots effort, so it's part of what I do. Our office in DC works on the Hill and figures out legislation that we need to be involved with, and then I work with my partner there to find the individuals throughout the country to advocate. So I manage all of our chapters, all of our peer support groups. So I reach out if we need to put pressure on a senator from Tennessee. My counterpart will say, no, we need someone to testify about this piece of legislation to Senator Blackburn, and then I work with the chapter to make sure that we get somebody to do that. Vets First, we started out as a veterans organization, so it's still very important to us. It's staffed by National Service Officers, NSOs, so we interpret benefits. We fight on behalf of the veterans all around the country, even if they have anything other than spinal cord injury. So vets that are blind or hard of hearing, or veterans that were diagnosed with Agent Orange, or other things that happened years ago, we still advocate for them. It doesn't need to be specific spinal cord injury, but that's where our expertise lies. Roll on Capitol Hill is our annual legislative event, and that's an event where we bring in about 120, 125 wheelchair users, and we spend the whole day of education talking about some of the issues that's before Congress, legislative issues that either negatively impact us or positively impact us. And then we try to tell our stories. It's important when we talk to legislators that when they go to vote, they think about me telling them why I need access to complex rehabilitation, or the Air Carrier Access Act. I travel all the time. That's why I need to be able to have access, fair access onto aircraft. So when they go to vote, you want them to think about Nick Labasi sitting in their office and make it hard for them to either say no or easy for them to say yes, depending upon what we're trying to achieve, right? Accessibility services is one of our profitable programs. We call everything here programs. We don't call them either programs or services. They're not like companies within our organization. It's an offering, so it's a program or a service. And accessibility services has been around for years, but in the past 15 years, we've consulted on every single major stadium and arena. We have Fortune 500 companies, so they bring us in prior to building to make sure that the built environment is accessible. And again, not only for wheelchairs, but for people that are hearing impaired or have visual impairment. So it's a program that we're really proud of. And we get to do some really cool things, like I mentioned, all the stadiums, some high rises in New York and all over the country. And our hospital membership program. So you guys are Shirley Ryan is part of our hospital membership program, and with that you get New Mobility Magazine, the New Beginning backpacks, if you've all seen those, our resources for your patients. We list you on our website as a supporter and as a resource, and we also make sure that we recognize you in New Mobility 4 times a year as a supporter. Any questions? I know I'm going fast, but I think a lot of you know a lot of this. I just want to reiterate where our strengths are and how we can help you. I think for you guys, the Resource Center is a huge one. If you have questions, you can certainly call them. I know in a facility like this, you have each other to lean on, but you can certainly reach out to us as well. We take pride, we have like a 98% rate in closing cases. We don't let them fall through the cracks. When it comes in, that Ask Us is a service delivery tool that can be done online. Some of the people that call us may not be able to type or want to speak on a phone, so they're able to do it through a computer. and it comes in and it gets routed to the proper department. So if it's something that I would take care of, it would come to me. If it's advocacy, it would go there. If it's accessibility, so whatever. But that case won't get closed until we get a resolution, either help them directly or connect them with someone that can help them. So we're really proud of that percentage that we have, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here for, is to help. So independence, I put this slide up because this ties into where we're going next with the accessible mobility equipment. So everyone's independence really means something different to them. I mean, for me, it's work. I work, I have a family life, there's things that I want to do. I'm very active, so I need transportation. Obviously, you can't achieve your highest level of independence or function without either driving yourself or having an accessible van that you can get in and have someone, whether it's a caregiver or a family member, take you to your doctors, basic things, where you feel like you're integrated into the community. I mean, everyday errands, social events, I mean, this is just a short list, but I think you guys get the idea, and especially since what you're trying to do is the same thing, right? You're trying to get the individual to do things, to go from one step to another, and I think that the next step after leaving rehab is the ability to be able to be driven or drive somewhere. I put this up again because as quick as I went through that, you can see that everything that we do focuses on that one sentence. I said, everything we do is to increase the independence and enhance the independence of individuals living with spinal cord injury or disease. And I think we do that in everything we do. I know that everything I do, I make sure that that's one of my primary focuses. Any questions for me before I turn it over? I was that good? All right, without further ado, Trevor Jennings.
Hello. So we got to play this game with Nick, and everybody knew United Spinal. So congratulations, Nick, being great at your job, I guess. How many of you guys are aware of NAMIDA, the National Mobility Equipment Dealers Association? Thanks, Nick. Glad our partnership's paying off. All those shows that I do with you, and all the weeks you and I get to spend together. So other than that, I saw I think one in the back. Okay, so we are the National Mobility Equipment Dealers Association, and so essentially, I'll just jump right here then. We're a nonprofit trade association, and so what that means is we represent a specific industry. So we represent the automobility industry, and so that's made up of three different parts as far as our membership is concerned. So we have our wheelchair accessible vehicle dealers, so the folks that are actually out there selling wheelchair accessible vehicles. And we've actually got one here today, so you guys will get to meet him after this, and he's brought out a couple of different pieces for you guys to take a look at that will touch on our other two membership groups here. And the first is going to be our conversion companies. So these are the folks that actually make a wheelchair accessible vehicle. So the way the process actually works in this space is Honda doesn't make a wheelchair accessible vehicle. Chrysler doesn't make a wheelchair accessible vehicle. There's actually conversion companies that buy the actual OEM product and convert it. They cut it in half, drop the floor, put a ramp in, make all of the types of adjustments for people with disabilities to be able to either drive or be transported conveniently in the vehicles. And then we also have our component parts companies. And so these are going to be your hand control companies, your securement companies, all of the different types of adaptive driving equipment that's going to go into the vehicles so that, again, they can either drive themselves or be transported safely through the securement systems. Also, I'm going to go super quick because I really want you guys to be able to get down and have a chance to interact with our dealers as well. And so there's a couple of different things that we can do for you all to kind of what we think is help you guys out kind of in your day-to-day jobs, because we understand that you guys have big boy and big girl jobs and don't necessarily dwell on this topic exclusively every day, and that's what we do. So first things first, we're a resource for you guys. We have a variety of different education opportunities. They're certified through a number of different groups. AOTA, which is the American Occupational Therapy Association, ADED, which is the Driver Rehab Association, and they're CCMC certified as well for continuing education units. But everything we offer is completely free. We don't charge anything for our education. It's exclusively built around building the awareness and helping you guys learn more about this process. We have two separate courses that we offer, and both of them are offered both online and in residential settings, either be it at one of our dealerships or at your actual location, kind of similar to what we're doing here. And one of our courses is a much shorter course. It's meant to be kind of a lunch and learn type opportunity. that'll give kind of a brief overview of the entire process. And then we have a much more in-depth course that kind of takes you from initial injury through the actual driver rehab training. So the actual training given to people to be able to accurately operate these types of vehicles, as well as kind of post into the dealer world, into purchasing a vehicle and what that would actually look like for your patients and clients. A couple of other things just that we offer for us, and the biggest one on here is going to be our QAP program, and I've got a separate slide for that and some information I want you guys to know there. But first of all, we've got our dealer locators. So on the NMEDA website, NMEDA.org, it's actually just simple. You can go in and type in either your city and state or your zip code, and it'll pull up all of the wheelchair accessible vehicle dealers in a given radius. So if you guys have people in Chicago, if they're further outside the city, obviously it's challenging in certain situations if you're not in a vehicle yet to get to those types of dealerships. And so it'll give a nice geo-radius, geo-targeted area for them to be able to find dealers in their area. One of the other things that we also operate is our mediation program. So this is actually a committee within, yes?
Mind if I ask, do you guys,
Yeah.
just on your website, do you also point people to driver rehab programs?
So our partners on that would be ADED, which is
Right.
the Association for Driver Rehab. So we consider them our sister organization. We work very closely with them. And so we would actually recommend that we go to the ADED website for driver rehab programs. I would have to think off the top of my head. I can guarantee you that there's a link to the ADED site on our website. But the ADED site would be your number one place to go and find their driver rehab. And I know for a fact that they have a similar function on there.
State by state lookup?
Yeah, they have a state-by-state lookup. It's not quite as high-tech as the zip code locator, but they do have a state-by-state breakdown of both their DRS and their CDRS on their website specifically. Yeah, so our mediation program, this is, like I said, it's a committee membership within our organization that we think is really important to the consumer at the end of the day. And so what we're trying to do here is this would be in the post-purchase phase of buying a vehicle. If there are any issues between a NMEDA dealer and a consumer, these are obviously very high-tech pieces of equipment and pieces of machinery. So if it's continued issues with ramp deployment or any type of technical issues that might arise and where the consumer and the dealer are kind of at a disagreement on what the best next steps are, our mediation program will actually help facilitate the resolution of that. And so they'll get together. They get together monthly, and they'll talk with both the consumer and with the dealer and figure out what the best next steps are to make sure that no one's getting essentially left behind because of a poor deal that was done with the dealership. And then our QAP program is by far the biggest thing we do, and that's our quality assurance program. And so all of our dealers adhere to our quality assurance program, and what this is meant to do is, again, to protect the consumer at the end of the day. And so it's the only nationally recognized accreditation program in the automotive mobility industry. And so what you're getting with an NMEDA dealer is somebody who is adhering to the highest levels and standards within the industry. And so I'll just jump in just to a couple of things that go into that, just so you guys are kind of aware of what goes into this. So our detailed guidelines for proper installations, we could spend an entire hour going into the tedious level of guidelines and requirements that go into this, everything down to which types of clips are required for certain types of wiring situations. Again, the one thing I want you guys to know about this is 100% centered around making sure that the proper equipment is being installed for people on the proper types of vehicles. So we don't have lifts that are getting installed on the backs of vehicles that can't support the weight. You don't have any number of horror stories that you guys might have heard. Everything is being installed with the highest level of standard and the highest level of regulation within the industry. And then all of our technicians that are actually doing the work on the vehicles are going to be certified technicians. So that means they're both certified through NMEDA with our own technician certification program, but they're also certified through the manufacturers of those products as well. So if they're working on a specific ramp or a certain type of hand control or a certain type of docking or securement system, they're not only certified through us, but they're required to be certified by that specific manufacturer as well. So they're qualified to be working on these pieces of equipment. And then how does all that get regulated, right? It's nice to say these things are things we do, but all of our dealers are required to undergo an annual audit. So we actually have a third-party firm that's not Namita, it's not our dealer base. It's actually a third-party firm that does an annual audit for each one of these dealerships to make sure that they're doing all of the things that we just went over and said that they're doing. So with the way the audit program works now, they undergo either a remote audit or an in-person audit annually. And every 3 years, it's guaranteed that they'll have an in-person audit and a person in their store verifying that they're going through the proper procedures and doing things the proper way. And then finally, our 24/7 emergency assistance. So all of our dealers are required to provide 24/7 emergency assistance for anyone that they sell a vehicle to. So if somebody gets stranded somewhere and can't get into or out of their vehicle, or their vehicle won't start, or any number of issues, all of our dealers are required to be able to go out and either pick up the vehicle and the person and bring the vehicle in for repair, or some of them do have a service company that offers that service as well, and so that's a requirement for everything that our dealers do. Again, the bottom line really for the QAP program isn't that anyone who's not an immediate dealer is bad necessarily. There are certainly some folks that are out there and don't do the best work. There's certainly non-Namita dealers that do great work, but the guarantee you get with an Namita dealer and someone who's a part of the quality assurance program is that they are going to be of the highest standard with it. That's really it, guys. I wanted to keep it short and sweet and wanted to get you guys downstairs. Did everybody get cookies? I see empty plates.
I have a question.
Yes?
In terms of financing, like if a patient's not, or somebody's not available.
Yes,
to
they are
purchase.
somewhat expensive
Right.
as far as the vehicles go.
Are there
Yes.
used ones available?
Absolutely.
Or how does that work?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah. There are going to be, there's a variety of options when it comes down to used vehicles, and that's actually exactly one of the reasons I wanted to bring one of my dealers out here, because he operates in this space on a daily basis. As far as the exact price points, it'll obviously depend. It also depends quite a bit if you want to get manual ramp versus an in-floor or a folding ramp. So there's a lot of variations that come, and it would really depend specifically client to client. But there are certainly used vehicles they'll offer. I mean, don't want to get too car salesy on it, but I mean, low mileage used car. I mean, there certainly still are those options. They are vehicles at the end of the day. But yeah, there's definitely those options. And Steve, who's downstairs, would be able to provide you with more specifics. He's actually local to the Chicago area, and he runs the Mobility Works location that's here. And so I would want you to be able to ask him that. I don't want to tell you that it's $12,000 if it's 15 or whatever. So, but yes, absolutely. Yeah, there are definitely. Yeah. Yes, sir.
And just as a general principle, I think state of Illinois still offers some low-cost financing
Okay.
through the state of Illinois. You can get there is some office of rehab funding.
Okay.
There is there are some options out there. So not great ones necessarily, but there are options.
Absolutely, and that's a great point. It really does vary state to state, and a lot of the OEMs as well offer some type of adaptive driving rebate. It's not going to be huge. Some of them are $1,000, some of them are $1,500, some of them are $3,000. It really varies depending on who your OEM is, but there are at least ways to kind of piece it together on the financing side for at least some level of assistance. Yes.
Does the dealer locator include, because oftentimes we're seeing patients who don't have their
Right.
definitive wheelchair yet, so we usually recommend that they wait to purchase until they have their definitive chair so they know it'll fit and all of that. I think Mobility Works rents, is that something that would be on the dealer locator, or is that more just?
So, as far as van rentals are concerned,
Yeah.
well, you guys are in somewhat of a unique situation just as far as who your dealers are in the actual Chicago area. You guys have 3 Mobility Works locations,
Right.
and once you get outside the Chicago area into Illinois, you diversify a little more. It's not, there wouldn't be a signifier on the dealer locator necessarily. What I would encourage you is to go to that actual dealer website. What the dealer locator is going to provide is general contact information, links to their site, and the mile radius or the distance away from the zip code you plugged in. So it wouldn't provide specifically on there whether or not they do rentals. That's a good idea as we continue to look into redoing our website for something that would be valuable for you guys. That's good feedback to have.
Yeah, I mean, obviously just with this acute population.
Right.
They're going to be sitting.
Right, and I can tell you, I'm fairly certain, just for your knowledge, that all the Mobility Works locations that are close by do rentals
Yeah.
as a part of a larger group. But yeah. Any other questions or anything before we get to go actually do the fun stuff and look at products. Nope.
All right.
All right, piece of
Thank
cake.
you.
Thanks, guys.
Or, if you guys just wanna take the staff elevators to 1,